the tinting, the strength of that paint is phenomenal. Blue and raw umber make a lovely sort of grey waves coming in here. Do you know, I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm very satisfied with that. Hi there, I'm Lynn Keddie and I paint in acrylics and I like to paint expressively, and I love to share tips with you on how you can do the same. I think the key is in painting loosely, is to really not fuss too much about what it looks like. I know that sounds really weird, but it's true. It's true. I'm going to do a little seascape painting. I'm using a palette that I used for another seascape. It had quite a lot of this phthalo turquoise, which is a golden paint, and I was explaining in the other video that its tinting strength is massive, and I put only a little bit on my palette, but I still got loads left, so I thought I might as well do another painting. So I'm using the same tools as I used before, which I've left in a paint bucket because it's really quite hot here today and they will dry out really quickly. I need to put a little more white, so that's titanium white, and I've pretty much got all the other colours I need. I mean, I think I'm going to introduce something else, but in this one I'm using what's called a cradled palette, and that's when it's got a sort of a wooden frame around the main bit of the front of the wood, whatever that bit's called, and it's glued on, and it makes a very rigid surface to work on. And when you can just hang this on the wall on a hook or something. And I've gessoed this. I put a layer of acrylic medium to seal the wood, and then I've gessoed it a couple of coats of white paint just so that I've got a nice surface and none of the weird stuff from the wood permeates through to the paint. Not that I think it would, but everybody always says to do that. I mean, manufacturers say to do it, so I think it's probably good practice. Now, I'm going to probably paint mostly using this palette knife, and I've said this before in other videos, I really personally like the blunt edge of this palette knife. If you prefer a pointed edge, go ahead and do it. Whatever you're happy with, please use, but do try different tools because it's always interesting trying something new. So I'm going to just kick off by using quite a bit of paint. That's what I like about these palette knives, is that you can scoop up quite a lot of paint. And I'm going to paint in some sky, and that's how quickly I'm going to do it. So I'm going to take some white. That's the lovely thing about, if you use lots and lots of paint, you can do lots of really interesting things with it. And I'm going to go from the top and go down. Now, I always say, and I'll say it again, I'm not always good at doing it myself, make a mark and leave it. I'm introducing a little bit of that yellow that I've got on my palette. Now that yellow is a tiny bit of yellow ochre, a tiny bit of raw umber mixed in with probably a little bit of the blue. So there's sort of several colours going on there, but it's very, very subtle. And you do get those sorts of colours in sky. So I'm going to introduce that. I don't like those lines going across, so I've got rid of some of those. But that I quite like. That's quite interesting. Let's get the sea in here. Now I'm using this painter's edge to get a straight line, and I'm going to have the sea, I think, not in the centre, but quite high up. It's not the sea, the horizon. And I'm going to use a brush, and I've mixed up some of this phthalo turquoise with a little bit of white, and I'm having quite a light effect going on there, which I quite like. Might add a bit more. And I've just got that horizon painted in really quickly. It's important for the horizon to be straight. It's important for the horizon to be not wonky. I'm going to have to turn this round to do this. And my horizon's wonky, so because one side's longer than the other. That goes to there. It's very scientific. Yeah, it's completely wrong. So let's go back in and go to about there. Paint that in. So you see that, to me that looks wonky as well, but let's see. There. To try not to put that. No, that's just about right. Okay, so we've got some sky going on, and as you saw, really quick marks, really quick marks. And I've got the sea is quite, it appears calm in the distance, doesn't it? It always appears calm, not necessarily calm. So now I'm just going to keep mixing slightly different. That's quite different. You see what I mean about the tinting strength of that paint is phenomenal. I'm going to add a bit more yellow ochre into that, change colour to make it slightly greener, and let's see what that does. I think this might be too dark. No, well, it's okay. And I'm just going to put that in. I'm going to get I've got still that paint on my palette knife, and if you have watched this and then you want to go back and watch it again and paint along with this, you know, do that. You just might just, if you set yourself a timer, and in this case it'll be the video, you might just find that exciting things happen, because if you paint quickly and not think about it, and you know, lots of lovely things can happen. So I'm liking what's happening with the sea there. I'm going to have a bit of waves going on here. I wonder if it's a little bit too light, but let's just press on. So very gently I'm making waves. I'm using the titanium white. I'm going to have to move this over a little bit because I'm catching on the edge of the... There we go. And then let's have another... We'll have to go back over that... those waves, but I'm going to have another bit of sea going on, another waves going on, just really quickly. Okay, so already that's sort of coming together quite nicely. Now I'm going to go back and try and recreate this rather beautiful colour that I had for the sand. I just want to get something in down there. So I remember it was quite a lot of white. And we're going to put that in there. That's very blue. That's very blue. I have used so much white today. Okay. I'm going to mix that up a bit here. I'm going to put another bit of the sea in there. Then I'm going to mix in a tiny bit of that. Gosh, I've still got that blue on my palette. But probably should have given it a bit of a clean. It's quite a nice colour though. Right, get some more, make it some more yellow ochre. Right, that looks more like it. So I've got some lovely, I'm going to have to get more yellow ochre on my palette. Right, okay, some more yellow ochre. Oh, there we go. That's better. That's more closer to sand, isn't it? And I'm going to move it up here, and then there are bits of paint on my palette, so I'm just going to let that go, because it could be rock pools. Ugh, that always looks like black or a really dark colour to me, and it just isn't. So I'm going to put some rocks in. I did this painting once of which had some really lovely rocks and just really rough marks, you see, kind of weird little marks almost, really. A bit more blue and raw umber make a lovely sort of grey colour, so I'm going to get some dark colours in, maybe some stuff going on here. lots of rocks by the sea. There we go. So I'm sort of okay with that. Now I've got a bit of that on my palette, and I'm just going to sort of allow that to mix in a little bit like that. And I want to get some more waves coming in here. And that's really thick paint. That is really thick paint. And I'm going to draw that in here. I've slightly lost things going on here. I can bring that back in. But I want that sense of waves crashing in. So I'm using really thick paint here. Might just have lost that feeling of the waves. There we go, let's come back again. And let's get some more sand going in. I've lost that rock there, but that's okay. And then get that rock and just some really, really simple marks. And then I want to have something a little bit bluer. Let's have a little rock pool going on there. It's a bit square, so it's just, and I'm really gently drawing the palette over this little painting. Finally, and I'm literally, this is it, I'm not going to do much more. I'm going to get rid of that funny little mark down there. I'm just going to have in the distance, don't know if I've got enough paint, just, oops, too much. Few birds. So I've got to get rid of that now because I've really, that should not be there. Let's see what we can do with that. Oops. Very gently get rid of that. So we've got a few little birds going on. Oops, okay, I've done it again. Look at that, a huge bird. I don't want you. Again, I've got to get rid of that. Can't believe it. There we go. Oh dear. So frustrating. Oh, too much. Too much. So gently try and drag. I might lose some of those. I'm going to lose those because it's just not going to work otherwise. There we go. I have 3 birds. I want to get a little bit more cloud. This is a flat palette knife with a bit of paint, just drawing it very gently over to get some really interesting clouds, which I love. And then, 3rd time lucky, I don't want just change the angle. There we go. There we go. A few birds. A little bit more dark. A little bit more. It's going to be bluer. I think that's probably too blue. Too blue. Somewhere I have my raw umber. I'm going to add a tiny bit more raw umber. Just to get that darkness coming back in. You want it to be sort of bluey, slaty colour, I think I would say. And then just very gently on a few of these, just get the darks coming through just a little bit more. And you don't want any of those shapes to be the same. I like this mark here. I don't want to do anything to that. I'll just add a bit of dark colour here. Dark colour here. And it's actually nice because you're adding another colour into the colour that you've already got, so it kind of looks rather lovely. And I think, do you know, I think that's, I'm going to leave it there. I'm very satisfied with that. It was lovely to paint. It was very quick. We're going to have some beautiful texture on this, as you can see. Going to have to leave that to dry for good 24 hours, I think. And what I tend to do is I tend to paint the edges. You could leave it as wood. You could just clean them up, maybe put a bit of white wax on it, and then maybe finish the front of the painting with either a varnish, if you like, satin or gloss. The thing about varnish is that you can't then paint over it. So if you do that, your painting is essentially finished. I sometimes just paint over it with a gloss medium, which really brings the colour back out again. And then if you wanted to just add anything to that, you could. But I'm loving it just as a lovely little painting all by itself. So thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed and you enjoyed this, do subscribe, and then you'll be able to see lots of other paintings, not just seascapes, landscapes, and I do love doing abstracts. I might be doing an abstract soon because I do love an abstract. So thanks for watching and see you again soon.